Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome back to another film theory reaction and how YouTube broke your brain. Yeah, that's not a very depressed looking Mr. Beast on the exact first frame of the video. I mean, it's MatPat, so, you know, I love his stuff, but at the same time, I mean, like, it does make me a little depressed watching all of this stuff about, like, oh, how these, like, websites, corporations, games, whatever, hack your brain to make you have to use them and stuff like that. But, you know, YouTube is, you know, doing its job, and I have to see what this video is actually about. So, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my game theory reaction, and we'll hold that out of the way. Let's get this thing started then, shall we?
Your favorite YouTuber is killing pop culture. Whether it's me, Mr. Beast, the Game Grumps, binging with Babish, we are all guilty. In fact, all of YouTube's guilty. And it's not just on this platform either. Netflix, Disney Plus, yeah, them too. Max, Prime Video, absolutely. When it comes right down to it, on-demand viewing of entertainment has slowly eroded away the very fabric of our collective cultural identity. And whether you realize it or not, that's a key reason why many of you watching right now are suffering from depression. That's why anxiety levels are on the rise. It's why America is a political hotbed and why so many people are questioning how they fit into the world right now. It's all because of this.
Behind me are the most expensive cars in the world.
My ability to stream Mr. Beast right now, or The Office.
Today, smoking is gonna save lives.
Or Avengers. Or Bewitched.
Ketchup with my oatmeal.
Or Friends. Or Breaking Bad. Or Game of Thrones. Or Game Theory. Or Film Theory.
To say this isn't the way I expected this video to start, would be a rather large understatement. I mean, I can... Wait, no, I mean, I was gonna say something about, like, you know, constantly getting, like, new stuff, getting those endorphins and dopamine up from, like, but granted, I mean, you can say it's, like, in the last while, the world has started going seemingly downhill really fast, and seemingly with the exponential growth and rise of streaming services. I'm definitely going to need a MatPat to explain more of this, because I'm definitely hooked. What is he talking about?
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, where we're part of the problem. So, have you guys seen Mr. Beast's latest video? At this point, that's kind of a legitimate question, because despite being the #1 channel and all of his videos raking in hundreds of millions of views, there's a non-zero chance that, no, you haven't seen it. How about Ryan Trahan, Eric, Mr. Who's the Boss?
Literally never heard of any of these guys. But yeah, the only thing I heard about Mr. Beast's newest well, at the time of filming newest video about, you know, surviving surviving in a grocery store for as long as possible. The only thing I heard about that was that people were joking that he basically just copied MatPat's thumbnail for when they did a food theory talking about how long you'd be able to last in if you were locked in, like, a grocery store after, like, the apocalypse or something. It's been a while since I watched that video. But yeah.
So these guys are consistently some of the most watched creators on the platform right now, drawing in millions of views with each upload. Are they showing up on your homepage? For a big chunk of you, I guess the answer is no. And I know this because
never heard of that.
I do actively watch their stuff, and they're not showing up for me. For some reason, their videos just aren't ones that YouTube's algorithms are recommending to me. Bet you've noticed this, right? YouTube is different this year. Recommendations feel different. Older videos are cropping up. There's more shorts everywhere. Smaller creators are getting more visibility, and the things that you're being recommended are more tied to what you've searched for or watched recently. I mean,
actually, well, not so much in, like, the past year. Well, granted, I have noticed, like, the rise in, like, a lot of older videos being recommended to me again, which has been an absolute blast down like nostalgia lane there. But for me, and specifically today, I don't know what it is with today, but I could not find anything to watch on YouTube. Like, I don't know whether it was just, like, a dry spell where there wasn't anything I really wanted to see or anything, but, like, I was having a real trouble finding anything to watch today. And yes, so many shorts. I'm legitimately thinking about going onto, like, the Chrome, what's it called? You know, like the store where you get extensions and stuff like that, and seeing if I can find something that just removes that. Okay, wait, let me go to my subscription page here. So if you look at my like actual subscription page here, I get like 2 rows of, you know, actual videos, and then I get this huge bar of shorts, and which takes up another possibly 2 rows of stuff, and just the thumbnails is it just me, or are the thumbnails of this bigger than normal? Because I could have sworn there used to be 6 videos across instead of just 5. And of course, when you click on the manage button, all it does is it just brings you to your list of subscribers. It doesn't let you like modify this page at all, because like again, this thing of shorts it's been driving me nuts for like the last few months.
You know, I watched the Hot Ones interview with musician Dave Grohl, and YouTube thinks I'm obsessed with drumming. I'm getting recommended drummer covers and drummer reviews and drummer lore. Did you even know that there was drummer lore? Because let me tell you, there is. Basically what's going on here is that this year has seen some massive changes on the platform, which merits a whole separate conversation unto itself, but the long and short of it is that my YouTube doesn't look like your YouTube anymore. You know what really proved this one to me? Skibidi Toilet. Seriously. True story. I was recently talking to a big room of Google's higher-ups, and I asked them if they'd ever seen a Skibidi Toilet video. You know, that insanely popular series of viral shorts that's gotten over 35 million subscribers and 12 billion views on their platform in the last 5 months alone. Not a single person in the room had ever heard of it. Regardless of whether you think Skibidi is pure gold or should be flushed down the toilet, it came from that right there. That is telling. And it's not just here on YouTube either. TikTok is really the one that started this whole trend. That's why you always hear people asking, hey, what's on your TikTok? Because in a world where algorithms are selecting what content you see, there's no guarantee that when I play this,
that's suspicious,
you know what I'm referring to. The good of this is that you're likely getting served content that's precisely targeted at your unique viewing habits. The bad is that fewer people are now watching the same things. And believe it or not, but watching the same things is a critical part of human survival. In short, if you've been feeling lonely or anxious or depressed or potentially all 3, it's because the world has become increasingly fragmented. And on-demand streaming entertainment is a perfect representative of why you're feeling that way. So let's talk about that and also some ways that we can solve it. First, let's just get a sense of the scale that we're talking about here. Think of the biggest shows on television over the last decade. 2 that stick out to me are Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones. Absolute darlings of the internet. There is no doubt that these were massive deals.
And yet somehow I was able to stand against the peer pressure and never watched either of them. Breaking Bad because I didn't want to watch a show about a good guy turning evil. And Game of Thrones because, in the beginning, it was very much like all I heard about was like the violence and the incest and sex and stuff like that, and that didn't really appeal to me, so I didn't watch it. And then as things developed, and it's like, oh, the show's changed or somewhat, and it's like, at this point, it's not really worth it because there's too much stuff I'd have to watch to get up to where we are now.
Breaking Bad's finale reached 10.3 million people when it originally aired. Meanwhile, Game of Thrones captured 13.6 million, with another 5.7 million watching a rerun or streaming VOD within 24 hours. Those are incredible numbers for a modern show, and yet they're nothing compared to what TV shows saw pre-streaming. For example, let's take a look at Star Trek: The Next Generation. When this show finished in 1994, how many people do you think watched the series finale? More than 31 million. A show that at the time was considered by many to be niche nerd content actually tapped into nearly 3 times the viewers of a modern program. And the numbers just get more insane as you look across more popular IP. 52.5 million people watched Friends as it ended. Seinfeld got a whopping 76.3 million viewers. I kid you not, people were literally gathered at Times Square to watch the finale together. Cheers was sent off with 80.4 million viewers, and MASH ended with nearly 106 million people, making it the single most watched broadcast in American history that wasn't a Super Bowl, a president resigning, or a moon landing.
One of the funny thing, with the exception of Friends, I'm pretty sure I watched all of these on rerun because there was a section of time when I was in high school that as soon as I got home, like I'd go downstairs because this was before I had my own personal computer, and it would just be, I'd turn on the TV and I'd watch like History Channel or something, and it would have MASH on, and later on, it wouldn't have Cheers on, it would have Frasier, so I also watched a bunch of Frasier as well. It's just, even in reruns, all those old shows had staying power.
Sure, Mr. Beast can pull 100 million viewers no sweat, but that's talking global numbers across the span of a couple days, with ads that are randomly decided by an algorithm based on your tastes and randomly placed throughout the video based on how you tend to watch videos. By contrast, these massive TV moments were people all at the same time, all in the US, all watching an event unfold together in real time. It was scheduled into their lives. Streets were empty. Everyone was fed the same commercials at the exact same time. And when it ended, everyone was released as one big unit. So afterwards, when I said, "The tribe has spoken," or "What's up?" or "Eat my shorts," you got it. You knew the references I was citing, and you were able to respond back in kind. It was a shared cultural lingo that you could reasonably assume most people you talk to had also been exposed to. But think about what that means in the age of on-demand video, in the age of YouTube, of TikTok and Netflix. What can you rely on people to actually know? That's just a theory? Yeah, maybe, but for as big as our channels are, we've always been niche. Like, comment, and subscribe, sure, but it's also too broad. It's too vague. That's on everything from a beauty vlog to a locksmithing how-to. It says nothing about who you are, who we are as consumers of content. And of course, this isn't only affecting TV. Avengers Endgame was the last big cultural movie moment to happen in theaters. And now, just 4 or 5 years later, the pop culture encyclopedia has largely run dry. IP like Marvel and Star Wars were among the last holdouts of shared cultural touchstones. But because of how they've been strip mined for content, their importance and relevance have largely been on the downswing, with ever-decreasing box office returns. And what's risen up to replace them? Nothing. Well, nothing except the Taylor Swift Eras Tour streaming in theaters. But again, why is that such a big cultural touchstone? Well, because she's one of the only artists to have made it big before this on-demand explosion, with albums dropping in 2006, 2008, 2010, and 2012, all before Spotify came in and solidified music as the on-demand entertainment source it is today.
Oh my god. That makes so much sense. Like, I don't know, like, in the last few months, I have been so confused as to why, like, Taylor Swift has seemingly just exploded in popularity. Like, I had always been, like, semi-aware of her music. I mean, I probably listened to a couple of her songs when she, like, predominantly made country music or something. But she was always just, you know, like a celebrity you only really heard about when, you know, like some sort of drama or something happened and the news talked about it for, you know, like a day or something, or, you know, the internet talked about it. But I was so confused as to why she was seemingly just becoming so, like, omnipresent. Like, she's like almost kind of like the next Elvis Presley, or like Michael Jackson almost, where her fans are like crowding the streets and going absolutely nuts, when I always found her music just to be, you know, sort of, you know, standard pop, whatever her style is. But if she's acting as sort of like, I don't know, a lightning rod for like one of the last few like moments of culture, like I'm talking about like a group thing, not like, oh, culture sort of thing, but she's like acting as like the one of the few remaining like lightning rods still standing before like digital culture has made everything like so defragmented and personalized. That would explain why she's gotten so insanely popular lately. Okay. Well, if nothing else, thank you, Matt Pat, for answering that question I didn't think I was going to get answered anytime soon. And here I thought it was just going to be, hey, you're just weird. You don't get into everything else that everybody else does most of the time.
And as a result of getting a foothold early, she's been able to maintain relevance through consistent releases ever since, leading us to today, where she's one of the few music acts that have been able to achieve such huge critical mass and cross-generational boundaries. But after Tay-Tay, who's next? Who rises up? What musical acts have had the same sort of cultural relevance? Internationally, I'd say K-pop comes pretty close, but the audience is now too divided for any one artist to attain that much of your attention. And so I can't just turn to the person next to me and ask if they stan Kim Tae-young or make a casual reference to color change changing soup and just expect them to know what I'm talking about. Now, on one hand, this rise of on-demand viewing is a good thing. Theoretically, you're being shown things that actually interest you. Videos, movies, games, and music that are all tailored to your specific individual wants and needs instead of what a corporate board of directors in Burbank, California deemed to be the next popular thing. But because we don't know what anyone else has seen, is listening to, is playing, quoting, or memeing, we lose the pop in pop culture. At the end of the day, you don't have popular culture if nothing is actually popular with everyone. But why's that matter? Can't we all just live in our happy little bubbles and carry on? Well, it turns out that at the end of the day, that bubble doesn't end up being very happy.
Yeah, well, I mean, also bubbles pop. Well, I mean, it's that old adage. We humans are social creatures. I mean, we thrive while being in, groups of like-minded people. If you're in a group, but you don't know if said group is like you in any way, well, that just gets down to being like mental isolation. And even if it's not complete and total isolation, like solitary confinement, the little I know of the human psyche, I know that isolation is not good for the human brain.
The reason is that popular culture supplies us with a lot more than hummable tunes and weird Euphoria clips where everyone's crying. It supplies us with connection. One of the easiest ways to connect with someone that you don't know is to find a piece of IP that you both know something about. Wait a minute, you also watched the finale of Seinfeld? Well, hello! Oh, you saw Infinity War? Why didn't they just go for the head? You listened to Taylor Swift too? That's awesome. What era's your favorite? But as pop culture becomes more individualized, the group we feel that we can truly connect with becomes smaller and smaller. Does that sound like I'm overstating the importance of these connections? Well, it turns out the fracturing of pop culture platforms coincides with a huge rise in feelings of loneliness and isolation in our society, especially here in the US, where we've already placed a high value on the idea of independence. A Gallup poll from 1980 showed that 20% of the population felt lonely. That same poll in 2020 reported that 36% of people, more than 1 in 3, was grappling with some form of serious loneliness. But that was 2020, right? That was the pandemic. You'd think that coming back from the pandemic would have improved the situation. But polls in 2023, 2 years after lockdowns have ended in most places, they show that loneliness continues to climb, with some studies reporting 60% of respondents feeling isolated, lonely, or struggling to make personal connections. And these stats aren't just like, oh, that's really sad. It's an epidemic that disproportionately affects people under the age of 25. That's not to say older generations haven't dealt with mental health or loneliness. They do frequently, but it often goes underdiagnosed in those populations. That said, the statistics overwhelmingly show that the vast majority of younger people are dealing with loneliness on a regular basis. And they're of course also the people that have spent their lives in this fractured pop cultural world with fewer anchor points that connect them to other people. Instead, the only things that unite us now, the only things that are truly able to cut through the noise, are the tragedies. In an absence of fun moments like a new Star Wars movie or an Avengers film or a new concert, bad news is the thing that rises to the top of every social media feed. Natural disasters, shootings, war, political upheaval. And while it isn't bad that people are more aware of those problems and injustices, this constant cycle of never-ending bad news with absolutely no levity cutting through has had a marked effect on the mental health of younger generations. But okay, I hear you saying that it's not fair to blame all our loneliness and isolation on these platforms.
Oh, God. That is really depressing. But at the same time, I can completely understand that. Like, I barely go out anymore. That's purely because, like, I don't have anywhere to go. But I'm lucky that I'm part of, a few communities. I'm part of, like, a Discord community where we're all sort of, we all have the tangible thing that we're all foamers. We all love steam trains. And I pretty much go on there every day, talking, typing, chatting with other people on the server, just seeing what's going on, what's happening in the world, getting other people's, opinions and views on things. And then again, it's not even like I'm alone in the house. I mean, like, I live with my brother and my mother. I mean, we, have dinner together every night. Yeah, I go shopping with her when we go out because, she's like in her 70s at this point, and, she's not, it's just the right thing to do to help her, and also, try to get some of the stuff that I want in the grocery cart. It just goes down to like how important personal connection is to us as a species. I don't know how many videos I've watched going over untold numbers of like psychological issues and or like problems that have happened to people or groups of people, and it all boils down to the fact that they weren't like communicating with other people enough, and they started going crazy because of it.
It's like the fact that my TikTok doesn't serve me the same goalie cat clip yours does makes the world a sadder place. No, of course not. It's not only the platform.
I don't think
pop
it's
culture
that
is part of a much
cut and
bigger
dry.
splintering that only looks worse the more you dig in. Pop culture obviously isn't the only way we relate to other people. There are lots of ways that people share interests and feel like we live in a society. And these ways are often listed out in various identity theories that have been made across history. Sports, religion, your job, your ethnic background, maybe your political views. Any of these things might be enough to bring you together with someone else. The problem
Political views. Okay, now I'm getting where that section at the beginning of the video was. When you start lacking other parts to connect to other people, the remaining like connections become stronger, and that can lead to trouble. Okay.
is that we're losing ground in these areas as well. All of them. For instance, looking at religious service attendance, it peaked in 1960 and it's been on the decline for the last 30 years. In fact, it dropped 10% since 2012 alone. What about our shared love of the good old US of A? Patriotism in the US has also plummeted across the last 10 years, most significantly among younger people. On top of being the prime demographic to feel lonely and isolated, young people on platforms like YouTube and TikTok are also more likely to be politically informed, and they've become cynical about their political identity. In 2016, almost 40% of people under 29 reported feeling proud to be an American, and then they hummed that lyric by Lee Greenwood. Checking back in 2023, that number is just 18%. So, okay, not really connected on religion or patriotism, but hey, you can always meet people at your job. Oh, never mind. The workplace has been completely upended in the last 5 years, just in time for Gen Z to enter the workforce and look for jobs. But maybe those jobs are remote jobs. Maybe they're in person. Maybe it's halvesies. Maybe it's the gig economy. Maybe they'll strike. And all the while there'll be a ton of inflation and Logan Paul is going to be telling them they should be investing in crypto. 70% of millennials and Gen Z workers are considering quitting their jobs as I speak. And high percentages of Gen X workers in fields like tech and healthcare are feeling burned out due to work and finances. People's identities are no longer associated with the place they work because people don't view those places as reliable or helpful anymore. They feel financially insecure and underpaid, enough so that basically half of all Zoomers, Millennials, and Gen Xers all have themselves a side hustle. My parents, by contrast, have worked in the same job for over 40 years, so for them, their job is a core part of their identity. But for young people now, they're disillusioned with corporate culture and mostly just want to get out. So your job's not making you any positive connections these days. What then does that leave us with? Well, according to identity theory, it leaves us with things like extreme political views, or extreme viewpoints on topics like gender, or extreme stances on race. All these areas where we've historically worked to break down barriers, improve communication, and at least attempt to work together. Instead, walls are now getting built back up as we attempt to define ourselves by how we're different from the other side. The scope of all of those things goes well beyond this little old theory on the internet, but suffice it to say, these are areas where a large percent of the population also feels divided or isolated or scared, and doesn't feel able to connect with those on the other side of the issue. So the TLDR is that if you feel like it's a really lonely time out there and it's bizarrely hard to make connections with your fellow humans on any basic level, you're right. We are more fractured and divided than ever everywhere we turn, and it's because the institutions around us that used to give us connection and identity are crumbling. So what then do we do? In a time when we really want to feel connected with something, what's the thing that'll help make us feel connected? How do you possibly beat a series of systems that keep us siloed? Well, ironically, it's in the place where we started this episode, stories. Whether that's in YouTube videos, movies, TV, video games, wherever, hearing other people's genuine stories about what they're going through makes us feel connected to them. It helps us understand that other people are going through what we're going through. It helps us to feel like we're not alone. They help us feel seen. One of the most popular movies of the last year has been Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Hugely, inexplicably popular. Except what's it about? Well, the theme is identity. It's about being lonely. It's about finding your place in your relationship with someone else when the identity you thought you had crumbles away. Huh, go figure. Kind of matches what we're talking about. Or how about the biggest movie of the year, Barbie? You know, the story about a person, a doll thing in a world where their role used to be clear-cut, but now she doesn't know what her place is anymore, what her identity is, which has left her feeling, say it with with me now, lonely and isolated. And she finds herself in the end by being a woman. And there's that big speech in there about how hard it is to be a mother and a woman and how there's so many expectations. Oh my gosh, it's almost like this whole movie is relatable. The stories that now cut through the noise don't shy away from this splintered feeling. Instead, they face those feelings head on. Authenticity and honesty about the one universal that we all feel, loneliness, is actually what's helping to unite us. YouTube, which has been the world's most frantic viewing experience for the last 3 years, is just now fully finding itself swinging in the opposite direction. Simple conversations with Moist Critical about current events, human experiences like eating with Eddie Burback and Ted Nivison at Margaritaville's, the lonely man's cuisine. Investing in human stories is feeling refreshing again. Even Mr. Beast has openly talked about pulling back from his ADHD-inducing editing style to a narrative format where he sounds more human and allows an actual story to unfold in his videos, because that's what's keeping people engaged, rather than just more and more suitcases of money opening up every 10 seconds. Will this instantly solve all our problems? The root cause that makes us feel so divided? Have us feeling great and making lots of friends and have hair braiding sleepovers soon? No, definitely not. But there's a recognition out there that talking to real people, telling real stories, and being honest about where we are, it pays off. While we're in this phase of splintered existence, seek out the real great stories that feel honest to where you are right now. Don't be afraid to talk about what it's like to be lonely, and do it in increments that are longer than 3 seconds. You could even go out on a limb and not set it to a trending sound. It's not guaranteed that everyone else you know will see the same things you will, watch the same movies you will, play the same games, or have the same experiences, but the important thing is that by watching and sharing stories that are real and relatable, we'll start a new pop cultural trend built on what it means to be human, with all the ups and downs that entails. You know what? It's not a bad place to start. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut.
You know, it's funny. During that last section of the video there, I kind of came to a realization, and hey, it's granted, it's one I've probably thought of before. It's just one I'm remembering right now. And it's that there hasn't been like a big viral thing happening on YouTube or the internet in a while. I'm not talking about like early YouTube where there was like a different like viral video that seemingly went viral and everybody saw like almost like every other month or something. Granted, I do look back on those times fondly. But like there hasn't been like an ice bucket challenge or going to Mr. Beast, that big thing when he, what was it? When he hit 20 million subscribers, he did like planting 20 million trees or something like that. It's been a while. It's been a while since I thought of that. But there hasn't been anything big like that where we can all kind of like unite and kind of like, hey, yeah, this is what's happening right now. In like a long time. I can't remember the last one that happened. And for a while, I had always thought, oh, you know, I'm getting older, and some of the stuff that, you know, might be going on like that, I'm just not taking part of because, oh, you know, it's silly or something like that. But after watching this, it might literally be the fact that that sort of stuff isn't happening anymore. You're not getting like these like viral videos or phenomenon like the ice bucket challenge or stuff like that anymore. You know, that is pretty sad when you think about it. I mean, I've said before that I miss the days when you could be a YouTuber and you'd be, you know, famous on YouTube, but you were like widely unknown to the outside world. Like you weren't a celebrity, you were a YouTuber. And granted, that might be just the whole thing. It was like, oh, things were better in the past and all that. But it for me, thinking on it, it's very much the whole thing where it felt like somewhat isolated from the outside world. Like, of course, you get stuff that happened in the real world, you know, coming on YouTube and becoming a thing. But it was very much like this little part of the universe was just ours, and we had fun. Well, that got rather depressing near the end, didn't it? So, of course, I'm going to be calling it there. So, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my game theory reaction. And with all that out of the way, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not. And, what are you guys watching? Goodbye.